Hello, this is OverlordBou, back with the information video with SAT score, and today we're going to be going over things that wargaming can do to improve the player retention. So, as you guys may have noticed over time, the player retention has been it's been pretty much going down for World of Warships over time. It's becoming pretty obvious for the NA server, for sure. So we're gonna be going over a few ideas, and you guys can also write down your ideas on what wargaming can do to help the player retention. Because if you didn't know, I will be going to the CC Summit that'll be held in October, and I'm able to bring these ideas to wargaming directly to help try to help bring a better player experience to the game. So this video will be very important in what notes and everything I'll be bringing to them. So definitely leave down in the comments what you think in a positive manner will help the game overall. So we have a few ideas that we're going to be going over, and you guys can write along with this as well during this. So first thing we think that'll help the player retention is the matchmaking, right? So right now, the player matchmaking seals really terrible. Sometimes you'll have five destroyers in a match with maybe like 2 subs and 2 cruisers, or like 3 or 4 battleships and a CV or 2 CVs, right? And you're just absolutely if you're a cruiser player or a battleship player in those kind of matches, you're just absolutely suffering, right? It is not a fun time at all. And if you're
There, yeah. There's also, I mean, there's kind of a lot of issues people have with matchmaking, but do you want to go on?
I don't know, you can keep going. You can keep going on what you were saying.
One common complaint I've seen people post often is just matches are over too quickly or they're too one-sided. So, I mean, 5-minute matches are, I mean, most matches don't even go 5 minutes, but there's a lot of people that feel like after maybe 5 or 6 minutes, the match is effectively done. Like one side has lost all their destroyers, one side is down 6 ships, and there's just nothing you can do about it. And so, if I feel like if wargaming were to find some way to address this, players would be more satisfied with the matches. Like they feel like they can actually contribute as opposed to sitting on the sidelines and watch half their team die in 5 minutes and lose the game.
Exactly. I feel like if they had like a more set number of ships, like a better stricter for it, because right now you can have like 1 battleship and up to like 5. With the matchmaking, you have like 1 through 5 you can have like 1 through 5 for every ship depending upon the matchmaking. I feel like there should be more of a fixed number for the ships, more strict on what it is, which will help the overall matches feel overall. I'm not sure if World of Tanks does this, but I feel like what they should do is they should have a limit of, like, say 3 battleships, 3 cruisers, or 3 destroyers, or whatever numbers around there, or 4 of each. And if there's a sub or a CV in the match, then there's only a limit of 1 sub and 1 CV. Which would help out the consistency of the matches. A lot of the blowout matches that I see are the ones that have those really lopsided destroyer matches, where you have like the 5, where you have the 2. Normally, those are the matches that have the massive blowouts, because in the 5, normally there's only like 2 or 3 cruisers, and the cruisers will get absolutely annihilated early because they're perma spotted. And then the destroyers will go out and just instantly get killed, or they'll get wolf packed. Because the wolf packing is something that it's not super common in randoms, but if you have a div that knows what they're doing, they're gonna absolutely wipe out a destroyer that isn't expecting such a play. So having more limited or stricter measures for that would help with some of the blowouts, of course. What would you think there, SAT?
I definitely agree with the 1 CV and sub limit. The sub limit especially is welcome because I know a lot of players do not like fighting subs. CVs as well, but CVs are already limited to either 1 or 2 depending on tier.
Mm-hmm.
If you limit the subs as well, I think a lot of players' complaints about subs would go away. That being said, I feel like that's more of a band-aid solution because the subclass in general I feel can use a lot of improvements. But this would be a nice short-term fix if Wargaming were to ever take a look at reworking subs.
Yep, exactly. That was something we are going to talk about as well, was the fact that the CV and submarine matchmaking, something that a lot of the player base got really annoyed with over time, is seeing multiple CVs in a match and multiple submarines. Having a match where you're dealing with two aircraft carriers and then up to three submarines in a match at like tier 8 and tier 6 is just cancer to deal with, and it's why a lot of the player base refuses to play the lower tiers, is because of that kind of matchmaking. At tier 10, you're limited to one CV and you can see up to three submarines. But on the regular, you're never going to see three submarines at tier 10. You're going to see up to two. It's very rare to see three, and the likelihood of seeing a tier 10 aircraft carrier it's still possible, but it's not as common as it was. And seeing a super carrier is pretty rare as well for NA anyway. But I know that on EU and Asia, super carriers are more common. Same with aircraft carriers, but on NA they're a lot rarer. Normally it takes like a full 5 minutes to get a match in them for NA. So normally you get those queue dumps for NA, which are the worst for super CVs, because you're in like a tier 9 ship and you get queue dumped and there's only 3 other ships on the team and one of them's that super carrier. And yeah, you're kind of screwed at that point.
You're literally hoping your super carrier is better than the other because you're not doing much either way.
No, no, you're not. That is full
Speaking
of
of
pain.
Speaking of getting up tiered, it's actually happening. A lot more people are complaining about getting up tiered nowadays. Like if you play a tier 9 ship and you see a super ship on the enemy team, you're like, what the heck do I do now? This Conde has literally twice my DPM. This Satsuma can just dev strike me from the front if he feels like it. And the super CV will just do CV things, but worse.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's getting up and not just seeing one super ship, but also just fighting multiple ships when up tiered. Like it's already bad enough you have to fight as a tier 9. It's already bad enough if you have to fight one super ship, but it's sometimes not too uncommon to fight like multiple tier 10s and super ships. Like you're one of the only tier 9s on your team. And that just kind of feels awful.
It does for sure. But I think those are some really great discussions to have with Wargaming whenever I go talk to them with the CC Summit. So stuff with the matchmaking, with the aircraft carriers and the submarines, and trying to bring more balance with the ship types would definitely help with player attention, make the matches not as painful. I know that at this point in the game, they're not going to be able to add any skill-based matchmaking because the queue times would be too long in that regard. If the player base gets to a high enough point, they could possibly add something like that, but at this point, I don't think it's possible with the player numbers, unless they were able to combine the servers. If they combine the servers, then yes, that could be possible, but separate servers, I don't think it's possible at this point, unless the player attention goes back up to maybe it was like 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
And this is something Wargaming has stated specifically. They've noticed that the #1 complaint on the PTS was queue times. So extrapolate that and you take it to the main game. If they prioritize getting people in the queue, so if skill-based matchmaking may cause a lot of issues. At least that's what they think. So that's why for the time being they're not going to do skill-based matchmaking.
So moving on from matchmaking, let's talk about potential new game modes or maps. Something that would really help out the game is new modes or new maps. Something like capture a point or a hill or hold a point, something in that regard. Maybe have it where there's bases, right? And you start at each side of the map separately, and there is spawns, right? So you have spawns. It's not where it's only one death and it's over. You have spawns. So a team spawns on the left and one team spawns on the right, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as you're going into the middle, there are bases that you can grab to gather points and add defense for your side of the map that have like turrets or other defenses for if the enemy tries to push, they have to fight them. And you're able to send supplies from your main base to those little islands to build them up and give them more of a defense. That would be a really fun game mode to potentially play in randoms not randoms, as its own separate game mode, right? So kind of like how how brawls, and then we have the mode shuffle. Maybe something like that, but its own more competitive mode, right? Where a clan or a group can go in, or you can go in solo, are able to play that more competitive mode, right? I feel like that would add a lot of fun, having a more competitive like base builder kind of vibe to the game. It's something that games like people probably heard of Battle Station Specific. That's one of my favorite RTSs when I was playing a kid on the Xbox. It's like a mix. It's not really. It's kind of like an RTS, kind of not, but it's the same kind of feel with the bases where you have to take 2 points and get supplies. You're able to build more ships, and you're able to jump around them, control them. I think them adding that would be a really cool way to get players to come back to try it. What do you think, SAT? Or what are your takes on some new game modes they could add?
That proposal you have is a pretty interesting one. It would, if Wargaming were to try it, it'd be pretty much almost nothing like we've seen before. We have seen Wargaming test spawns during I think it was April Fool's event. Apparently that didn't go over so well. And then but we haven't had like the capture bases and like more of a campaign style gameplay versus the battle style we have right now.
Yeah, I think that's something that really misses out on the game. The fact is, like, it's one and done. It makes it feel extremely painful. For the fact, oh well, you're dead, you're done, or your whole team is dead. You have to sit there and suffer. If you have a game mode where you're able to try to coordinate more in a specific mode, not in randoms, but its own mode, separate, or it could be something a clan could do to where it's like a special thing outside of, maybe it's a part of clans. Like, I don't know. I know that a lot of people are like, they get fatigued with how much clan battles are. A lot of the higher level clans get fatigued over time from all the consistent tournaments or all the consistent clan battles that are going on. So having it being a clan battle probably is not the best, but having it as a potential clan activity where clans are able to bring in their whole divisions in there for fun, or have it where randoms can go in or random divisions can, I think that'd be a really cool feature. Because one of the best times I had in this game is when I did like a full division in Brawls, where you could bring up to 9, and we had like our full clan go in playing. What was it? Brawls? Was it called Brawls, or was it called Clan Brawls? I don't remember.
It's Brawls either way.
Okay, but yeah, I remember that, and that was so much fun. Doing that, it was such a ball, and that was probably one of the last times I played with a big group of people outside of clan battles, where we just had a ball playing together, having fun, doing memes. We were just trolling, like playing really weird ships that aren't normal. We were just having fun, right? And we haven't been able to do that since, because they haven't added that back in ever since then. It was the first and the last time it was ever implemented. It was never brought back, unfortunately. A lot of people weren't very happy about it, so
Unfortunate.
yeah. Yep, unfortunate. But anyway, that's what I think about that. And of course, new maps. I think the new maps would come in with the new modes. So with new modes would come new maps. So it would be a combination of the two with that in that regard.
That
So
being said, some maps are better suited for other modes. So if we go along with the mode you proposed, I think you'll need a specific you'll have to design a specific map for that, like they do for Halloween events.
yeah, exactly.
But the last time Wargaming introduced a map was not Faro, it was Shahales,
Mm-hmm.
or I cannot pronounce it properly. So, and unfortunately, that map I only see it in mid tiers. So it'd be nice if they design another bigger map for higher tier gameplay, because that's, for better or for worse, that's where most of the matches are from nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure. So moving on from that, let's talk about another way. So we were talking about PvE, expanding PvE. So I know that they recently just added super ships, tier 10s and tier 9s to the
Operations.
operations. So we would say something there is adding more operations to the mix. Would be nice. We haven't had a new operation in a while. So it'd be nice for them to be able to add some new operations that would be a lot more, like maybe a little bit more complex than the current ones, but it'd just be a little bit more interesting to see some more. I know that we had the D-Day event, which I think went really well. It was a lot of fun, and I was very happy with how the D-Day event went. Now, there were some bugs that were going on where people could exploit it, which they had to fix, where they could just make insane amounts of base XP and credits, but they were able to fix that because people were breaking the game. But other than that, everything else went really smoothly. The DD operations were a lot of fun to play. You could play with your friends and your clan members or whoever, really. It was a lot of fun. So I think that went really well. So more events like that would be great for PvE players, because there is a large amount of people that only play like co-op, or they only play operations. They don't really like playing randoms or ranked or brawls or anything, just because of how toxic the community can be. So having more PV for those players to be able to go in and have fun without having to worry about the toxicity side of the game would also be very helpful.
And this is not limited to operations or co-op. Asymmetrical battles would also fall under this.
Oh yes,
And
of
from
course.
what I saw, it was pretty popular. It was more difficult than co-op, but not so difficult that you can't, that was impossible. So a lot of players found it like a nice mix of increased difficulty, and yet they still had to do something in order to carry the battle.
Mm-hmm. So very nice addition there that could help retain player retention. Next would be improved tutorials. So I know that right now in the beginning of the game, there's a very short tutorial, very, very short, and it doesn't really explain a lot. I feel like they need to extend this tutorial to talk more about the different shell types, AP, SAP, HE, the importance of detection or anything like stuff like that. They need to add a slightly more complex tutorial than what they do, because the current one is really lackluster in giving very useful information for the new player. And most of the time they just throw them to videos, which a lot of the time they're not going to watch. So having a tutorial that kind of goes over everything, like not everything, but all the basics, right? Like detection, maneuverability, armor layout, the importance of like bow and aft armor, like the overpin mechanics, all of that is very important information that is never taught to the player. And they have to go out and either suffer to figure it out, or they learn it from somebody angrily yelling at them about it in game.
Or they just don't put up with it and give up.
Exactly. So an improved
So,
tutorial would definitely help.
yep. And also, you can expand it as players go up in tiers, because there's a lot of walls players have to fight against when they move up in tiers.
Yeah, that
For the
the tier 8 wall for when you start being introduced to radar and longer range hydro. Oh yeah, that's a big one.
And I don't want to tell you how many players I've seen do not know they can transfer captains between ships or even build their captains properly at all.
Yep.
So yeah, getting this would also help the average skill of the player base. Like, yeah, they may not be great players, but at least your destroyers are a little bit less likely to suicide at the very start.
Hmm.
And that would in turn lead to better games, longer games, games you feel like you'd have an impact on.
Yep, that is a very
But
good observation. Hmm.
yeah, but that's my opinion, of course.
Yes. So moving on, we have about 2 subjects left. I feel like the economy right now for the green and blue economic bonuses are pretty, for blues it's pretty lackluster without spending money. It's really hard to get them. So them having a reward for more active gameplay to get more blue bonuses would be really nice. For like certain number of not a certain number of battles, but maybe a certain number of like gameplay or earning some kind of damage number or something along the line that's like something that's able to be monitored or tracked. Something that would help players be able to get more economic bonuses for them playing the game or like rewards for playing better, right? So
I
like the
would
better they play, the more that they'll potentially earn.
What you could do is make these rewards tie back into the achievement system. Back when
Oh yeah,
achievement
you're
used to
right.
give
Yes.
signals.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're totally right. They should add that back. That's 100%. They need to give back the rewards for achievements. Oh, it's like, oh hey, you get signals for getting these achievements. That right there would help push players to play better. 100%. I totally forgot about that.
Yep. And if you need to put a cap on it, just make it once per day. I
I
think
thought
that was the
that's
same the last when they did it
yeah,
anyways.
they did. It was once per day. I remember because I used to take my Mikasa out in tier 2 to get my achievements for the day, and that's how I did it. I would go to Mikasa tier 2, have fun playing at tier 2 because tier 2 back then had a lot of players in it and had fun, and I would go right back and play whatever tier I wanted to, and that's how I got my signals for the day.
You know what? I'm starting to change my mind because you just said that.
What the? It was fun. Everyone was having fun back then in the
You,
in
s-
the Mikasa tier 2 era.
you say that as you wield the bat and you start aiming at the seal below you.
I don't know what you're talking about. It wasn't bad. It was
Anyway,
fine.
just easier access to the signals would be pretty appreciated. Right now, they're kind of hard to get. You can get it in certain events, like the Dockyard event going on right now, but otherwise, like you have to, like mostly you'll get like whites and greens, which is better than nothing. But it feels like they are kind of not as much as they could be.
Yep, for sure. All right. So the final thing we can talk about that would definitely help out the player retention is stricter punishment on botting. And the term that we use for botting is legit if someone is actively throwing the match, as in not participating in the match. Either they're hard Wing in and dying, not doing anything, or they're sitting at the back of the map doing almost nothing in the match. So this isn't pertaining to people that are AFK or their computer crashed or anything, but this pertains to people that are actively in the match doing pretty much less than 200 base XP. And we all know of these players, right? These
Yep.
players that will all the time, and I don't mean just on a one or two occasion. We mean the players that actively will just W win, die instantly, or they'll sit at the back of the map, or they'll just throw a hissy fit, which I legit had happen today. We had a super CV he was in the United States. It was in like a 9v9 match. He was spotted by the enemy's aircraft carrier, and he got shot from across the map by a battleship and threw a hissy fit and reported the battleship because he shot him across the map, and he legit stopped moving his CV and just flew his planes at the back of the map, not doing anything, and refused to play the match because he got mad that a battleship shot at him when he was in a carrier. And I'm not even joking. It happened, well, it happened today on the 14th, whenever this video goes out. I don't know when that will be, but yeah, it happened literally earlier today when I was streaming. It was... the brain rot I had during that was horrendous. The nerve. Imagine a battleship shooting an aircraft carrier.
Yep. The more common situation is that people will just intentionally suicide their ship. Like sometimes, yeah, you'll see destroyers suiciding in, or you maybe see that curvers that you recognize as just W's in and doesn't care. And it's not, and as Bo said, it's not a one-time thing. It's literally just over and over. Like every single match they are suiciding in and constantly getting bottom of the team.
Yes, and we're not talking about people that are below average in the game or not very good. We're talking about people that are legit intentionally throwing, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a key difference in between someone that's not very good and someone that is intentionally griefing the game. There is a big difference. And there should be stricter punishments on people that actively throw the matches or are legit just not participating in the match, where they should get a credit penalty or have almost zero credit income in that particular match due to that. To where they don't gain any at all.
That being said, there is, it is actually against the EULA in the fair play rules section that the players are not allowed to do that.
Yes.
But it's still consistently a problem. So Wargaming should probably try to increase their efforts on this part.
The problem is that for them to be able to actively be able to punish those players, they would have to get hard evidence of them actually throwing, which is very hard, right? Because they usually have to say it in some form, admit to them throwing, right? If they don't say they're throwing, and they just still do the action, it's harder for them to be like, oh, this person's throwing, right? It could be just a one-off thing that they did this in the match. But if they're doing it multiple matches and there's multiple instances, then yes, then they are throwing without saying they are, which they can then prove like, hey, this person's doing this over and over and over again, which means we can then do something about it. That's why streamers, which I'm not going to name, they were actively throwing matches, and they were banned because there was evidence behind their action that showed them actively throwing matches, which would cause Wargaming to take action because there is evidence behind what happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there needs to be stricter punishment on players that are actively doing it, as in there is an automated system in the game where if someone earns below a certain amount of XP or something in that regard, where it could detect if they're AFK or if the computer crashed, to where they don't get punished because of that. But if they're actively in the match and they earn below a certain base XP, they should be punished credit-wise or or something else to help reduce that kind of behavior from players. Because a lot of
Yeah.
other games have those systems in place where there's either a queue deniers, like, hey, well, you can't play matches for this amount of time because you were actively griefing a match. That's very prevalent in games like Valor and Overwatch. Same with if you leave the match, it also does that as well for other games as well. So it's something that World of Warships should get the ball rolling on to help with people in that kind of behavior.
Mhm. Of course, these are all our opinions, but a lot of it is from observing what the player base has been telling and asking Wargaming for. So, a lot of what we say are also pretty commonly said among the player base.
But again,
Do
of
you have
course,
any? Yeah, do you have anything else to add?
I was going to say definitely make sure to write down in the comments. I know I said this earlier. Make sure to write down in the comments what you guys think or your guys' opinions as well. Again, most of what we said is, of course, our own opinions and what we've seen from the community and what they're wanting. But of course, we want to know what you guys think as well. Because whatever is the most common consensus in the comments and overall, I'll be taking to talk to Wargaming whenever we do the CC Summit. Me and about, I think it's like 30 other CCs will be going and we'll be having talks with them and getting information on things or other stuff like that. So we'll be able to go and kind of like try to help make the game better while we're there. We'll do our best to fight for your guys's, what you guys are like, what you guys are telling us, as long as it's overly positive, not just, you know, overly negative, like complaining. Like, as long as it's constructive, we can work with it, right? But if it's just saying ban all CVs and subs, then it's not going to happen. They're not going to do that at this point. It's not going to happen. Even though how much we would love for submarines and aircraft carriers being removed from the game, it's never going to happen, right? So unfortunately, let's just put that thought aside and just try to make it where the game is, I don't know. Hopefully subs will be removed from the game. Hopefully we can pray, you know?
Offer more realistic solutions.
Yeah. Hope for more realistic solutions, like SAT score said. But I think that's it from me. Do you have anything else you want to add, SAT?
Nope. Well, one thing. Ultimately, the reason we play World of Warships is because we like the game. But that, of course, does not mean the game is without flaws. Everyone wants to make World of Warships a better game. So it's important that you add your own opinion, but also be constructive about it.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're all on the same team when we want to make World of Warships better.
Exactly. We also want to make the game a more fun experience for everybody, a more fun and game that, thrives and doesn't lose players. But anyway, that is going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much, SAT Score, for your time today. I do greatly appreciate it. Make sure you guys write down in the comments your own views and opinions on what you think will help the player base and ways for Wargaming to help change it. And this is OverlordBou, and I will talk to you all later.